And welcome everybody to the return of the Pulse of Fins Nation. I'm your host, Louis Song, and my co-host, Ron Caniff, will be with us shortly. For right now, I have him joined by Alfredo Arteaga of 3 yards per carry. We've got plenty of stuff to talk about. We got plenty of news. Vic Fangio obviously is making some changes to the coaching staff. We'll talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about some of the other changes made on the coaching staffs. We will talk about the recent news with Byron Jones. That's the thing that we're going to have to discuss, simply because this is going to have some serious ramifications on what the Dolphins do this offseason. And only because Ron wants to, we're going to talk about some of the comments that Mike McDaniel made during the combine earlier today. So before we get into all of that, just want to go ahead and mention one more time, as always, this show is brought to you by PrizePicks.com. PrizePicks.com is the revolutionary fantasy platform where you can pick up to 6 different players across professional sports leagues, whether that's the NFL, the NBA, or if you're somebody who likes hockey, you can dive into the NHL. Right now, today, they're doing their Taco Tuesday promotions. So, for instance, I took advantage of a Taco Tuesday for Trae Young, going at least 22.5 points. That seems to be a gimme against the Washington Wizards. He very rarely goes under 22 points. Or you could potentially get other players like the NHL for shots on goal. Those always seem to be big time winners. So they'll give you freebie picks. They will give you more Taco Tuesday things. Flex Friday is always my favorite time of the week when it ever comes to Prize Picks, because if you end up losing, they will give you $20 back if you bet up to $20 through promotional funds. You can basically try again risk free. So there's no justification at this point for not signing up. They make it so easy for you. Use the promo code 5. That's FIVE, and they will match up to $100 on your initial deposit when you sign up. Again, that is promo code 5. You have to spell that out as the word FIVE. Go to prizepicks.com, use that promo code, and then sign up. You can deposit up to $100. They will match that $100 and basically give you a $100 free to play with. So we at 5 Reasons Sports have been having them as our sponsor for many years, and we are looking forward to having them as around for many more years to come. So, Alf, let's get into the whole topic of the show. Byron Jones. So I'm going to go ahead, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up exactly what these tweets were, because he kind of got everybody staring at Miami when he decided to make these tweets. So a tweet came out from the NFL basically talking about how Byron Jones back in 2015 was the superstar of the combine. And then he went out and he tweeted out, as I welcome Ron to the show, he basically came out and he said that there was a lot of things that are not going well for him. He said, quote, "Much has changed in 8 years. Today, I can't run or jump because of my injuries sustained playing this game. Do not take the pills they give you. Do not take the injections they give you. If you absolutely must, consult an outside doctor to learn the long-term implications." He continued his tweet by saying that it was an honor and a privilege to play in the NFL, but it came at a regrettable cost I did not foresee. In my opinion, no amount of professional success or financial gain is worth avoidable chronic pain and disabilities. Godspeed at the draft class of 2023. So, guys, that's a pretty damning comment that he made there. He basically, without saying so, he's basically saying that the NFL doctors, whether it's the Dolphins doctors or NFL doctors, were making bad advice that suggested that, here, if you do this, you'll be able to play through your injury. And now he's essentially saying that because of what I did in the past, I now can no longer play the game to the best of my ability. So, Alf, since you got here on time, I'm going to go ahead and go with you first.
Well, and then his agent called him and told him, look, what you said right there sounds like a retirement. So let's walk that back. I'm going to call Joe Shad and Barry Jackson, and we're going to walk this back and make sure that everybody knows that you are not retiring. Because if you were retiring, we would owe the Miami Dolphins $4.2 million. Look, it's unfortunate. He's a really good player. Was a really good player. That injury in 2021, I guess he played through it. Who knows what he took? The NFL has banned a lot of what people used to think about as far as injections. I know everybody keeps saying that Patrick Mahomes needed to get injected to get back into the Super Bowl and play in that game. They banned a lot of those things, and a lot of players really don't elect to take any injections nowadays. Most of it is oral, and it's been a different day for a while. So I don't know what Byron Jones is alluding to, but he had an Achilles injury, and there's a difference of opinion here. He had an Achilles injury that he rehabbed from. The Dolphins incorrectly felt that he would be ready for the opener. this season. He was not. They corrected themselves later on and said, no, we're working through this, but we kind of do expect him back. And then, a series of events later, he never plays and he never suits up and he never begins his 21-day period of practicing. So he knows his body better than anybody else. And he felt he couldn't produce and he couldn't be Byron Jones. Now, when he says, I can't run or jump, a lot of people were taking it literally like, oh my God, this guy is crippled. He's not. Okay. He just can't run or jump the way Byron Jones used to run and jump. But we shall see going forward. We shall see. He says he's not retiring. We shall see where he plays next season if he does play. So, as of now, what we do know is that it was going to be a little messy if he was going to retire because then the Dolphins do recoup some of that money. But as of right now, all it's going to be is a June 1st cut, and it's going to be nice and clean. Dolphins are going to add about $13.4 million to their cap situation in June 1st, which is going to help them greatly. And that's it. It's unfortunate because you kind of wanted him to try to see, you wanted to see if you could actually make him part of the team going forward this coming season, but that's just not going to be the case.
All right, Ron, I want to get your thoughts on it.
Can you hear me?
No, I can hear you just fine.
Okay.
I can actually, I can hear you so well. I can hear you breathing.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm not used to this little new headset there. I first of all, his comments about don't take what they tell you to take, don't take this, that, and the other. I mean, man, this isn't 1965, 1980. I mean, all the information is out there for what you should and shouldn't put in your body, what you can and can't do as an NFL player, what's required of you, what isn't required of you. I mean, I just didn't like, my biggest thing with it, I just didn't like the way he made it. Tried to make the Miami Dolphins, in my opinion, look out just like in a negative light. He put them in a negative light, like a scapegoat, or just putting them in a negative light in general. The Miami Dolphins have done that to themselves enough over the last few years with more than one situation. I just didn't like that. I mean, a guy that, you got paid millions of dollars last year to sit on the sideline to not play. Millions of dollars. And then you're going to come with, oh, don't do this, don't do that. I mean, come on. It's in the brochure. At this point, everything you get with the NFL, there's no more secrets, if there ever was, in regards to concussions and things like that. It's all in the brochure, man. You know what you're getting into. That's why you get paid millions of dollars. You know that there's a chance at playing in the NFL, you're not necessarily shortening your life, although you could be, but your quality of life physically in your older years might be tougher than if you had not played in the NFL. It's part of why these players are paid so much money. I understand they're not all paid millions, but the players who play extended period of time past 3 years plus are usually paid millions by that point, or at least $1 million a year. I think that's where the vet minimum is now. So I don't want to just say every player makes 10, 15, 20 million, because I know they don't all make that. I just didn't like the negative connotation of his comments at all. And then going to the retirement thing, it sure did sound like he was going to retire. That's when I saw that, that's what I thought. I thought, man, this guy's retiring. But then Alf, you pointed out on OnlyFans, only $3, that that man, we'd be able. You instantly said that, like the minute the tweet came out, like the Dolphins would be able to go get a portion of this and a portion of that. So that got fixed real quick. You saw Barry come out and stuff, like to the point he's not retiring. I mean, it was clear, like you said, somebody called. Somebody called Barry and Joe Shad and all these guys and say, look, he's not retiring. But it almost sounded like there was going to be some, like a battle over this thing. And now I'm thinking there's not. She's going to just be a post June 1st cut We're going to save plenty of money and we're going to move on. I don't see Byron Jones playing for the Dolphins anymore. It's too bad because when he played with us, he played well. I understand he's not a big interception guy, but we knew that going in. That was in the brochure for us on Byron Jones, right? He didn't catch 10 interception 2 years in a row with the Cowboys and then suddenly come to us and only catch one. We knew that he wasn't an INT guy, but that he was a really good cover corner, which was what that defense needed. But now I even wonder, with the change in defense, would he have really been a fit anyway? Even a healthy Byron Jones. Now he's a good player, so imagine maybe they would have found a way. But his brand of cornerback and the way he plays it probably wasn't an exact fit to be paying X and him that kind of money. So I imagine there was a chance that even a healthy Byron Jones might have been a post June 1st cut. So should be interesting to see, because I know that we have a lot of we got a lot of things. Greer has to be very creative with the cap. We know that, because that 13 million barely gets us to even on paper, as it is on paper anyway. I mean, we need to sign what's going to be an expensive backup quarterback and all that. So we'll save that 13 million. We'll move on, and there we go.
All right, I want to chime in on the salary cap thing, because listen, at this point, I'm starting to worry less and less about how the whole salary cap thing is going, because the New Orleans Saints literally just gave Ryan Ramczyk another kick down the can road and said, here's another 10 million in our salary cap, just because, on a player that we already have. So if I'm the Dolphins, I'm looking at Tyreek, I'm looking at Teron Armstead, I'm looking at literally any of these super expensive guys who we know we're keeping for a long time and saying, hey, can I give you some more money right now and just kick this down the road so we have more salary cap space? Thanks. What player in their right mind is going to say, oh, more money right now? Heck yeah, give it to me now. So
it'll be easier if they just approach Wilkins and Connor Williams, those two guys, on extensions. Those are guys that you're going to want going forward. Yeah. Connor Williams is young, okay?
Yeah, and
he's part of the young nucleus of this team. I think. Have you looked at his contract situation? Do you want to get into it? Like, he has another good season next year.
No, I said
get into him again.
I said a long time ago that I think we should extend him. Like, don't even wait, just do it now. Give him a contract.
Yeah, like I saw enough. He's young, he's good, he's an offensive lineman. We need them, right? He's the center, which is kind of important. Yeah, just sign him and make it long term, and maybe you get him at a discount. I don't know if you've noticed what centers are getting nowadays. It's a lot of money. So, especially him, he's younger. He just came off a really good season. The coaches know, maybe you get a little discount and extend him. I think it's good business to extend Connor Williams, extend Wilkins, and create some cap space that way, right away.
Yeah, very simple. Hey. I don't think it's going to be nearly as difficult as we think. Now, I'll get back to you in a second, Ron. But the other thing I wanted to talk about is actually regarding Byron Jones himself. Again, he keeps, like, Barry and Joe are re-emphasizing so much, no, he's not retiring. But at this point, he may as well be. Because after all this, after everything he said, after everything that's gone on, he didn't play all of 2022. Now he comes out and says that he can't run or jump, whatever the heck that means. He gets cut June 1st, post-June 1st cut. He has zero trade value now. What team is going to come to him and say, you know what? Are you able to run and jump again? Can you actually function on the NFL team, on an NFL team still?
Well, here's the way that goes. Trading him is completely out of the.
Yeah, there's no value, zero.
It's not even the value. He can't pass a physical. Like, if he couldn't suit up, what is he going to do? Fake a physical? No, they don't do those things. Okay. Like, you can't fake these physicals, because I've heard this on Twitter as well. Like, no, he'll just, he was faking it. No, you can't fake these tests. Like, medicine has moved along so far enough to the point where you can't fake the strength that you have in your Achilles. Okay. You have to be way too smart, or and you have to be a better athlete than you actually are to actually fake something like that, which is to say it's impossible. Okay. You can't do it. Okay. So the test that they go under to check the strength of your knee and your ankle and your Achilles. You can't fake. So if what he's saying is true and there's no reason to not believe him, then he wouldn't pass a physical today if he got traded. So that's completely out of the question. So he gets cut June 1st. What's going to happen is if he wants to continue his playing career, he's going to have to travel to some cities and he's going to have to work out and then pass a physical. And if he does that, then he'll get a contract.
He'll get a small contract.
Very small contract because he just sat out an entire season at cornerback at the age of 30.
Again,
he'll be a Brent Grimes prove it year type of contract.
Yeah.
And with an opportunity that if he plays really well to maybe sign an extension with that team or another team in 24.
But this brings back exactly what I was saying ever since even during the season. I was saying if Byron Jones really wants to maximize his money at this point, he would walk up to Chris Grier and try to convince him, listen, I'll take a pay cut to stay here in Miami. Just let me prove myself. Now he's going to have to go out there in the street and say, can someone please sign me? Because what's he going to get? $5 million at the max? I was willing to keep him for 7, 8, maybe even 9. Now he's going to get nothing on the.
Well, he was under contract. So he was under contract. He already touched the contract once. He wasn't going to touch it again. So if he was going to play for the Dolphins, he was going to play for that number or an extension going forward, which I don't think was ever going to be in the cards. Especially with the new defensive system. Now, the argument for Byron Jones is that he's flexible enough that he could have played several positions, including safety, in this new system. But this new system, I don't think is going to emphasize the cornerback position like it did in previous years, like Josh Boyer's and Brian Flores' system did. So,
their system, absolutely demanded 2 absolute studs on the corners and a really good one at the nickel. And we got to see that last year as all the injuries happened that the system
and now it demands
and
now it demands intelligence and people that can play zone and play leverage. So we were talking about this on OnlyFans and on the podcast as well. People that are mocking like James Bradbury and all these other guys, forget about all of that. You're thinking about guys that can play in this system and on short-term cheap deals. A guy that I really like is Bryce Callahan. Like that guy just finished having a great season, played under Fangio before. He's a Charger corner, by the way. He's really, really good. He would fit perfectly into this system. And don't forget, you kind of struck gold with Kader Kohu. And I think Kader Kohu is going to take to this system like a fish to water. And Xavier Howard, get ready for interceptions because he's going to be facing the quarterback now. He's not going to be in coverage with Stephon Diggs all over the field, up and down the field. So now he's going to be able to play zone. He's going to be able to break on some balls. He's going to be able to make some plays. So I think this new system, it's low stress on cornerbacks and kind of, the writing was on the wall. And I think you're absolutely right in this respect, Ron. It was entirely possible they were going to cut him June 1st, no matter what, anyway.
So one of the comments from Ethan, it's not Ethan Skolnick, it's a different Ethan. He's just going to cut June 1st. Hopefully we use that money to get Wagner, as in Bobby Wagner of the Los Angeles Rams. So that's actually an option that people have been speculating about, is if we could get someone along the lines of a Bobby Wagner who still had a fantastic season. It's funny because I had actually talked about something similar to this when I was with Dono on his show with Hussam as well. Because a lot of people are talking about trying to go grab Levante David. And I'm just like, okay, well, one had a good season and one had a not so good season. So I'm like, why wouldn't we go get the guy who actually can still play if we were going to get him at all? So that's the other thing is I don't think linebacker is something that the Dolphins are looking very heavily at. They seem to be indicating they have a lot of faith in Channing Tindall. So whether that faith is misplaced or not, we will find out. But
And let me tell you something about Bobby Wagner. He just finished having a really, really good season. He's going to the Hall of Fame. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. Like there's no doubt about that. But 33 years old and expensive is a bad combination, especially for a team that's trying to open up a Super Bowl window. So I don't know. I think I would stay far away from Bobby Wagner and Levante David, both of them. I would look for cheaper options and younger options that could grow with the current team rather than somebody like Bobby Wagner. Like if you're going to spend that kind of money, there's better ways to spend it that will give you a bigger impact on this team.
So with that being said, let's pivot a little bit here. So what are the real needs that the Miami Dolphins have right now? Obviously, one of the things that they're going to be looking at, I'm sure, is going to be running back. I don't know when. I think the year officially starts like mid-March, and that's probably when they'll go ahead and
March 13th is the tampering period, and that's when if you go on OnlyFans and you make yourself a member on OnlyFans for $3 a month, you're gonna hear some news, just like you heard last year. Like you knew, like actually by this time last year, you knew about 2 weeks in advance that the Dolphins were in on Teron Armstead and expected to sign him. Okay, so if you go on OnlyFans, you'll begin to see some news on March 13th. The league year starts March 15th, and you can sign guys on March 15th. There's also a deadline to tender Savan Ahmed, and the restricted free agents. I don't know what that one is, but yeah, you mentioned running backs that have any. They don't have any on the roster right now, so I would expect a lot of work in that regard right away.
So I'm just wondering if it's going to be just as simple as just re-sign Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson and maybe find a young rookie. Like I wouldn't mind just standing pat, like just bring back everybody, bring back Mostert, bring back Wilson, bring back Savan Ahmed. If you want to try to find a bruiser, be my guest. But I feel like this running back system, what one they have, I'm good with it. I don't feel a need to go out.
I'm good with everything. The only thing I'm not good with is getting a really super expensive guy like that. I'm not good with that. Like Saquon Barkley, I'm not good with that.
Dalvin Cook.
Now, yeah, let me ask you this. What if Dalvin Cook does get cut and you could get him on a cheap deal? I think that's something that they might entertain. Like that's something that they might entertain, and that's something where you can find the money, rather quickly for somebody like Dalvin Cook, somebody who's already at the end of their contract, has earned most of it, and you can get them on a cheaper deal for like a 2-year deal. Yeah, Dalvin Cook kind of makes some sense to me. But I'm good with almost everything, and bringing back everybody and drafting one, I'm fine with that as well. But also look, we've been talking about this on the podcast as well. Look at some of the lower options. Some of those guys that are on the fringes that could be the next guy. Like a Jared McKinnon, Boston Scott, guys like that. They're out there. Like and they're all good fits. Because remember, one thing that this team is usually not going to have is having a bell cow. Like they're not going to have one guy get 30 carries a game. Like that's just not going to happen. They like to have a larger running back room. So I would look at something like that. A complimentary piece. But I'm pretty certain that Mostert is in their plans. I don't know about Jeff Wilson. And Savan Ahmed, why not?
Mostert bought a house in South Florida. He's a Dolphin.
Yes. Yeah, he's going to be a Dolphin. And Savan Ahmed, I heard some people saying, let him go. I'm like, why?
Why? He's so cheap and he's so good. He's such a good replacement for those guys. Like if one of them goes down, he comes in and he's not them. He's not Wilson. He's definitely not Mostert, but you don't have a large gap. It's not like watching Tua go out and then, all of a sudden
literally anybody else.
Yeah. It's not like that kind of gap.
And I don't know if you guys saw Mike McDaniel today, his press conference. At the
I hadn't gotten to catch up on it yet.
Yeah, Ron, this is what you want to talk about, right? Go ahead, let's do it. Let's get out the way.
I want to talk. No, let's finish up this conversation first. I wanted real quick, since we're in the kind of free agency, who we re-signing. I wanted to touch on the Connor Williams thing. My only thought on that is you made the bet and you took the chance that you knew what you were doing in regards to analyzing what a player can do. And you moved him to center just based off his skill set and his intelligence. And did it pay off, because he really was a Pro Bowl worthy center for this team. I understand he didn't go to the Pro Bowl, but he was worthy of the Pro Bowl. So now take the next step and extend this guy. You know what I mean? It's time to finish off that, what you did there. As far as running back goes, I think the Dolphins are going to do more at running back than you guys think. And here's why. It is Mike McDaniel has spoken loud and clear, out loud, in public, and is well aware about the Miami Dolphins' third and short problems last year. He said it. He knows they were last. He has said it in public out loud to everybody. That doesn't sound to me like a guy that's going to say, "Oh, I think we're good at running back." Now, maybe he's thinking there's another problem. Maybe that was part of why Applebaum got fired and they hired Butch Berry. Maybe that in his mind was the fix, and it's not a running back issue. But I have this feeling he's maybe going to want to do even more than let's change out the offensive line coach. We need a guy that can get us the third and short when we have to have it. So I wonder, yeah, maybe Mostert comes back, maybe Wilson comes back, but I wonder if there's some other thought somewhere. And I don't know if he's going to rely on the draft because he got burned last year when they missed out on a guy that he really wanted, right? Wasn't it Dalvin Cook's brother or cousin or something, if I have that right? I don't recall, Alf.
James Cook.
James
Yeah.
Cook?
Yeah, like he was mad. We know Mike McDaniel wanted him, and they missed out.
No,
I
that's
don't know
not
if he's
the guy.
going to wait
That's
for the
not the guy.
draft again.
That's not the guy. The guy that Mike McDaniel wanted was Rashad White, that he went to Tampa Bay.
Okay. But we know that he missed out. I don't know. I think he's going to feel nervous to wait for the draft on a guy to fix a problem that was one of the biggest problems on the team, on the offense. The offense didn't have a ton of problems. That was one of them, was the third and short problem. Being last, an offense like that being last and third and short. And I don't know if he's going to just blame himself for not running it enough. I don't think that was the answer either. So I have a feeling they'll make some kind of move. Maybe we're not expecting them to at running back. What that is, I don't know.
I mean, I personally feel like any hopes and dreams that Dolphins fans have of Miami drafting a running back, I would just say throw them away. That's just my honest opinion.
You mean drafting one outside of the 7th round?
Out of the 7th round, yeah. They'll get an undrafted free agent. They may get a 7th rounder if you beg hard enough. I like Biggie. I love you, man, but Jared Dokes.
Yeah, Dokes wasn't it. Dokes wasn't it.
Although, again, I'm pretty certain, and this is nearly a certainty, they were going to take a running back last year in Tyndall's pick, but he went earlier in Rashad White.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We know that McDaniel was visibly mad about that. Like he didn't hide the fact that he missed on a guy that he wanted. I thought it was Cook, but it was White. Okay. He missed out on a guy. So third and short problem, well aware and said out loud he knows they're last in the league. Fires the offensive coach. Probably nervous to wait for the draft again, because what if we don't get our guy? I just think they're going to sign somebody. I think if we ended up with a Dalvin Cook or even Barkley, it wouldn't I wouldn't be like, oh my God, I'm shocked. I know that you guys aren't expecting it, but I'm kind of expecting it, just because when the team tells you something or the coach tells you something, listen. That's the way I see it. And to me, they're telling us they're going to do something to try and fix that problem beyond the offensive line coach.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, listen, Raheem Mostert can do the job if you just give him some good line blocking. That's it. That's all. Really. I would not even be opposed. Like, I know we don't want to mess with a good thing per se, but if you can find a really good center that pops free in free agency, I wouldn't mind moving Connor Williams back to left guard and letting a new center pop in.
Nah, Connor Williams too valuable at center to me. I don't know why you couldn't find a guard. You should be able to find a decent guard over a center.
Guards are more expensive.
Play as good or better than Connor Williams. Are guards more expensive than centers? I don't think so.
No, centers are more expensive.
Yeah, centers are a prime position.
So am I thinking of the
NFL.
draft where centers generally don't get drafted as high as guards?
They're about drafted equally. Tackles are the only ones that always go
drafted first.
Yeah, higher than most. But, centers, as of late, remember that used to be like an old trope, and that's changed. Remember there was one taken last year by the Ravens. So, and Creed Humphrey went 33rd the year before. So
he went. Yeah. I thought he fell a lot farther than that.
I don't know. I'm pretty certain. Let me
look it up. Yeah, Creed Humphrey. Because I remember we were still screaming and hollering. How is he still on the board?
38 or something like that.
Let's see. He was drafted. Trying to find it.
It's bad live television, guys.
Yeah, this is bad live television.
Gotta get it moving here. I'll fill in the space with some.
I mean, yeah, talk away.
With just some random words. Actually, while you're doing that, I know that you mentioned that Mike McDaniel had a press conference today. That because he didn't come out and say, "Oh, they're going to pick up Tua's fifth." I even had a guy at work ask me about it, and we were talking about it. And I mean, have they picked up Burrow's fifth yet officially? Yeah, go ahead.
I found it. Creed Humphrey was drafted 63rd.
Wow.
In the second round. So like near the bottom of the second round. So that's why we were screaming and hollering. How is Creed Humphrey not drafted? Greer, go get him. Go get him.
Yeah, he never. I don't scream for Greer to go draft the lineman anymore because he never.
He never gets it right.
We were screaming about draft Zach Tom too, and that didn't happen. But I would say that and correct me if I'm wrong, Alf. You may know. Have the Bengals picked up Burrow's fifth-year option yet?
No.
Has the Chargers picked up Herbert's fifth-year option yet?
Nope.
There's a lot of negotiation that goes into this as far as and there's a lot of salary cap implications as far as picking up the fifth versus extending, et cetera, et cetera. And that's not just an automatic, oh, we like this guy, we're going to pick up the fifth. There's many implications, especially with the salary cap and contract negotiation with the agent, the things that we just don't see and don't know about.
Yeah, and to
there's nothing to worry about there.
Yeah, and to make it clear to people, Christian Wilkins, there was no doubt whatsoever that they were going to pick up the fifth year on Christian Wilkins. They picked it up at midnight at the deadline.
At the end of April, because I think like May 1st or so is the deadline.
Yeah, May 1st is the deadline, and they picked up Christian Wilkins on April 30th.
Yeah, so there you go. Because there's a lot of things that are involved in that aren't just about we like the player.
Yeah, and let me and especially when it comes to Tua Tagovailoa, you're talking about a larger number than Christian Wilkins.
It's like 25 million or something like that.
23 million.
23.
Okay. There's a possibility that there's a happy medium between picking up the fifth-year option and extending him. Okay.
Man, I think that now that's one thing I think I don't know because I don't know, man. It depends on what that number would be.
Ron,
depends on what that number would be.
I'm convinced. The best thing, this is how I would do it, and this is just me because I don't have any questions anymore. I really don't. I'm not going to play this whole injury game and act like, oh, what if he gets hurt again? So what? Players get hurt all the doggone time. At this point, I am willing to go as far as to say, just give Tua an extension, make it, because right now he's having to, they can at least negotiate on the whole, well, he might get hurt. Let's have some performance guarantees in there or stuff like that. If he comes out, let's say, just hypothetically speaking, he balls out again in 2023. He's only hurt for 2 games. Let's say he does get hurt, but it's only for 2 games this time.
Yeah.
He gets it. That gets Miami into the playoffs for sure. And if we decide that we want to keep him, he's going to be a whole lot more expensive to extend.
I think he's going to be expensive anyway because
he will be. Yes, he will
hindsight, not hindsight, but looking forward, prognosticating. I think if they don't extend him, he's going to pull a Flacco on him and make himself really expensive because I think he's going to have one hell of a year, way better year than he even had last year. That's my opinion on it. However, being a Miami Dolphins exec right now, being Chris Greer, man, it is risky with the concussion issues he had and the injury issues he had. I mean, the thing about Tua, and I keep saying this, and I keep using this expression, it's in the brochure. Well, if you want Tua as your starting quarterback, another thing that's in the brochure is you got to have an expensive, good backup quarterback. Can't have any more Teddy Bridgewater that just wants to be a cheerleader, man. You got to have a guy who wants to play. You got to have a guy that almost wants to take his damn job. He needs to be at that level because that's what you need.
I don't believe that, Ron.
Ron,
Ron.
the evidence
Ron,
of
listen,
the first 3 years
Ron.
indicates that you got to have a really good quarterback, a really good backup quarterback for Tua.
They've
The
had
first 3 years just
back-to-back.
screams it.
They've had back-to-back years where they've gone 1-4 with their backup quarterbacks.
Yeah, you have to have it.
That has to change.
And but they had an expensive backup in Teddy Bridgewater for $10
Nah,
million. He didn't
was
do anything.
That's
He
not
was
even
useless.
Yeah, he was there to be a cheerleader, man. He wasn't even there to be a real backup quarterback. When Mike McDaniel talked about he's what we really want in a backup. Yeah, he's what you want because he wants to be in South Florida. He wants to hang out at South Beach. He wants to be a cheerleader in the locker room. Man, none of that. You need to bring a guy in who is literally going in and say, if Tua goes out, I ain't letting this job go. Because if you want the Dolphins to be successful, that's the kind of backup quarterback you need. You need a guy who wants to come in and keep the job. Now, I'm not saying the guy would keep the job, but you want a quarterback with that mindset. And that was not Teddy Bridgewater.
Would you
That's
take
the thing.
Teddy Bridgewater was $10 million.
Case
Keenum.
It's not. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, what happened to your sound? You sound a lot.
Yeah, he was 6. Teddy Bridgewater was $6 million. He wasn't $10 million.
Okay, so what was I could have sworn he signed for 10. Oh, no, 6.5. Okay.
Yeah.
But even still, so that's fine. 6.5, fine, whatever. Case Keenum is 35 years old. I'd take him for $6 million, or maybe even less.
Yeah, but he's just a backup guy. I don't know that he can come in.
That's the point, Ron.
No, that's not what you need. You can't have Tua and have just
my roster.
Yes, it's necessary, Lewis. It is necessary. It's part of having Tua as your starting quarterback. You got to have a guy that could almost be a starter and wants to keep the job. You can't just have a dude who's there to be. You can't have Chad Henne. You can't have that guy. It's not going to work.
Case Keenum is not Chad Henne, bro. And even then, don't disrespect Chad Henne.
He drove it 97 yards for a touchdown, man.
Don't disrespect Chad Henne because he did his job, man.
He did do his job. But I'm just saying, I think you need a guy, man. You need a real dude at that position. Like they really, Chris Kaufman was talking about this today in OnlyFans, and he made some great points about what you need to do at that position. And I have kept hammering it away that you have to have a real backup, man. You got to have more than the best backup. You probably have to have a backup that's better than at least a lot of the bottom third starters in the league that are out there with the teams.
You have to have a backup that would be the Jets' best quarterback.
Yeah. Well, that ain't hard. Alf, we could go out there and be that dude. Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. What kind of level of quality are you looking for here?
Geno Smith.
I got one.
Geno Smith.
Taylor Hine, like Geno Smith.
Well, Geno Smith is not going to take that job because Geno wants a starting job, and I think he's going to get it with Seattle, maybe even the Jets, which is going to, that's going to be hard.
But if he doesn't get a starting job, he's going to want a job where he thinks he could go get the starting job because he thinks that, Tua's going to get hurt, and then I'm going to take that job, and I'm not giving it back. You just want a guy like that, and with that kind of mindset. If he can't get a starting job. Jimmy Garoppolo, same thing.
All right. So we're talking about all these quarterbacks. And we've been talking, and Alf, you even brought this guy up. You're telling me that Nick Mullins would not come to Miami to be Tua's backup? Someone who practically has the system memorized already? And he would not be expensive.
Yeah, but let's forget the system. The only thing that's the same between the offense that San Fran runs and the offense that Miami runs under Mike McDaniel is they're both based off timing throws from the West Coast offense, and that's it.
And
one offense throws the shortest amount, like the shortest passes in the NFL, and the other one throws the longest passes in the NFL. And there's not a lot of dudes that can do what Tua does. That's why people get me like upset.
Right. So why are you wasting your time looking for
that's
a backup?
Why you got to have a really guy do
Tua?
Yeah, but you're not going to find one that's going to exactly replicate Tua, but you need a guy who is going to go out there and can be at a starting level caliber. Like if Tannehill gets cut, you need to go get Tannehill. He's very accurate.
I am not paying
He'll want to hold on to the job.
Come back here.
I'm just telling you, man. These are the kind of mindset you have to have.
Yeah, I think that the move is obvious. The move is Jimmy Garoppolo right now is absolutely delusional when he put out that through his agents that he wanted a contract somewhere around $25 million a year.
Yeah, our buddy Chad's delusional with him because he thinks he's going to get it.
Yeah, okay. He's absolutely delusional.
It'll be the first
Nobody
bet
is going
you
to give
ever
him
win,
that
Ron.
money, okay? Because Jimmy Garoppolo actually is injury prone. People talk about Tua being injury prone. At least Tua gets through most seasons. Jimmy Garoppolo misses half of seasons. Tua's just missing like 2-3 games a season. Okay? So Jimmy Garoppolo, I think, could be left like you've ever seen that game, that musical chairs, where the music starts playing and everybody goes to get a seat and then the music stops and everybody sits down. Okay, I think eventually the music's going to stop playing and Jimmy Garoppolo's going to go sit down and there's no chairs left.
Even the
And
Jets. I think Jimmy Garoppolo is going to end up with the Jets. I think that's the last job that
So
the
you think that
last
the
starting
Jets are just
caliber
gonna?
guy.
You think the Jets are just gonna be so desperate that they're just gonna say,
Yes.
"Fuck it, that's it."
Yes, because they keep missing out and missing out and missing out on the players they want. They drafted, man, they've done some hella drafting the last couple of years. I wish they hadn't, but they did. But man, they cannot get the free agent targets and trade targets that they really want. They just keep striking out. So
Well,
yes,
it's New
I think they're
York.
going to get desperate.
It's New York. Jordan Poyer told you guys. You know, he told everybody what's the deal.
Were you
Okay,
talking
and
about the tax, the 11% additional
yeah,
tax
nobody
on
wants
his
to go
pay?
play in New York. Nobody wants to play in New York. Okay, first of all, the media hates you.
That's a good
Okay,
point.
they're hostile. The media is downright hostile. Unless that team is winning, and even when they're winning, do you remember all those videos of Bill Parcells that when his teams were winning 12 games a year? Okay, so the media is downright hostile, and then they take half of your money just for living there. People don't want to play there; they don't want to play in New York.
The NFL players that play in New York actually get more than half their money taken because they get half of it in Fed tax right away, then like
Yeah,
11% in state tax. It's insane.
yeah,
61% of their money gone. They get 39% left.
yeah. And if that's
Hey,
not good enough, then the cost of living is through the roof.
yeah, on top of it. Now, Alf, I got a question for you. Is Poyer the first free agent to sign on the dotted line
I think, I think,
when
I
it
think,
starts for Miami?
I think that when the NFL season starts, okay, and if you want, quote me on this, and I think we're in agreement on the podcast. I think the Dolphins are going to open the season in Kansas City on Thursday night. Okay,
Oh man, yeah, that
okay.
definitely could happen.
I think when the Dolphins open the season in Kansas City on Thursday night, I think Jordan Poyer is just going to run onto the field with a uniform, and he's not even going to have a contract. Like he's just going to play. He's just going to play. He's just going to say, "I'm here. I'm
He's
playing."
like, yeah, he's
And I
not
think
gonna
Big Fangio's
fly
go-
to Miami
And
And then Big
just
Fangio's gonna
who's that?
Vic Fangio's going to look over at Chris Greer and say, "When did we sign Jordan Poyer?" And Chris Greer says, "We didn't."
Chris Career's like, just go with it, man. Just go with it.
He's here. Just play him. All right. You
That's
know,
awesome.
he wants to be here. Look, John
Like,
Johnson III got cut by Cleveland. He is a spectacular fit. He's also a lot younger than Jordan Poyer. Gun to my head, he's probably a better fit. But there's something to be said for the guy that wants to be here. Okay. And will make a massive impact. Now, John Johnson, I think you have to make a little longer commitment. I kind of like Poyer because as soon as Poyer runs out on his contract, we just give his money to Javon Holland. It's a perfect fit. You know what I mean?
Good
With
point.
with John Johnson, you might have an issue in a couple of years. You might say, okay, now we got to pay two guys. Like, what are we going to do here? So, either one I'm fine with, but there's something to be said about the guy that wants to be here. We know the impact he can have. We know that.
And the fit he'll be, I think, with the defense.
Absolutely.
I think he'll work.
And you're weakening your biggest rival. Because I've said this on the podcast, I've said it on Twitter. All that cute stuff from before, like last year, we got to make the playoffs. We got to make the playoffs. All of that is over with. All that cute stuff is over with. Next year, the expectation is to win the division. That's what we're talking about next year, is about winning the division, getting a home game in the playoffs. That's the goal. If you can do that, why not? Look at the Bills. Look what they're doing. Leslie Frazier's taking a sabbatical for a year.
Yeah, what's that about? Like,
yeah.
I wonder what's going on there.
And their head coach is going to call the plays on defense, by the way, Sean McDermott. So they're going to have like a different dynamic next year. They can't pay. Look, they're going to try to pay Terrell Edmonds. deep down inside of me, I'm thinking,
Tremaine
you know what?
Edmonds?
Yeah, and Tremaine Edmonds. I think, yeah, the other one is the safety for the Steelers, I
Steelers,
believe.
right? Terrell Edmonds.
Yeah, yeah. So Tremaine Edmonds. I'm thinking to myself, you know what? It's probably a good idea if they have to give this guy like $18 million a year or $18 to $20 million a year, because that's going to keep them from doing the things that I think they should be doing with that team. Because they haven't, the Buffalo Bills haven't figured out yet that, they should be drafting in the first round skill position players to make them cheap to go with their superstar quarterback, get top talent at the top of the draft to go with their superstar quarterback. What they're doing is keep using high draft picks on defense. That's not what you do in that situation. Now you got Stephon Diggs, who's kind of upset, and he's getting older. Gabe Davis is leaving. There's an opportunity here. So, yeah, do it. Weaken them. Take Jordan Poyer from them. And he's going to have knowledge of that defense and that team. So, I'm all for it. I'm for the guy that wants to be here. He absolutely wants to be here.
Yeah, he's not, even if he's not as great of a fit as Johnson is, he's still a fit. And yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like, but now the question becomes, how badly does he want to be here? Is he willing to take a smaller deal? Like, because if, like, for instance, let's say Buffalo comes back and says, "Hey, we'll pay you $8 million to stay." Could he get away with offering $6 to come to Miami?
You can pay him
No.
11% less. I know that.
Yeah. All you gotta do is be competitive. The good thing about Jordan Poyer, and I've said this many, many times, he's gonna offer bang for your buck. Where in the NFL are you gonna get an impact player for like $8-9 million a year? The Saints did last year when they got Tyrann Mathieu. Okay. And why is that? Because nobody pays older safeties. Nobody cares. Nobody wants to give money to an older safety, but they could be high impact players. Jordan Poyer, I think, would be a great influence on Javon Holland, a great influence on the defense, and a perfect fit.
Safety is a really important position for this defense too. More so than cornerback. Now it switches. It went from cornerback being very important in the secondary. Now safety is more important.
Now here's the question that I have, because this is actually going to come back around from Byron Jones. And we keep saying how cornerback is not that important anymore in this defense, but let's not pretend like it isn't important. So we have Kader Kohou. Yes, we struck gold, but we keep hearing over and over, and you've said it even too, Alf, is that his best fit is in the nickel. But right now, the way the things are panning out with the players we have on contract, with the players we're speculating to bring back, even like a Nick Needham, it seems like Miami's best bet, if they don't want to heavily invest in the draft or in free agency, is to keep Kohou on the boundary, even if that's not his best fit.
Yeah. It's going to be up to Fangio. We'll know in OTAs. When the OTAs start, we'll see how they run out there, to what positions they run out. And then we go, oh, okay, that's what Vic Fangio's thinking.
And so if that's the case, are we going to use Needham as the nickel? Which I don't know if that's, and then this is something we have to consider, because since injuries were such a massive pain in the tail for the Miami Dolphins all year long, if Xavier Howard goes down, if you bring Nick Needham back, Nick Needham has to move to boundary. It is what it is. You don't have an option at that point unless you bring in some veteran somewhere else. And maybe this is just me wearing my nostalgia goggles, but Bobby McCain just got cut by the Commanders. Could you bring him in to be a slot and let Nick Needham focus on being a backup boundary?
I will tell you in a second what I think about that idea, because I'm going to look up his numbers.
Didn't the Commanders continue to, because Bobby McCain made that switch when Flores got there from cornerback to safety. Didn't he continue to play safety with the Commanders? I actually didn't pay much attention to his career.
I don't want Bobby as a safety. I want to go back where he made his money in the first place.
I just don't know.
All right,
he hasn't played corner in a long time, if I'm not mistaken.
His last contract was 2 years, $10 million, okay, with $5.7 million guaranteed on that deal. He has $2.8 million dead cap this year with the Commanders. Absolutely not. He has to be able to start and play a lot of snaps if you're going to pay him that kind of money. So,
I mean,
I don't think he's going to take less. He's going to want something similar to that. You got to look at. Remember, he signed here for 4 years, $27 million with 10.7 guaranteed.
But that was a long time ago.
And 13
what,
total
5-6 years ago?
guaranteed. Well, that contract ran out in 2022, which was this past year. Okay. The Commanders gave him a new deal. They ripped up the deal that was gonna clear out in 2022, and they gave him a new one for last year and then this year, and then they cut him ahead of the second year. So they essentially paid him $5.7 million for 1 season, guaranteed. No, that's bad business. He's going to be expensive. Like, he's going to look at those deals, and he's going to hold out to try to get somewhere around 3 or 4 million.
I'd pay 3 for Bobby.
I don't know. I don't think they can afford to do that.
Not for a guy,
because they had to give that money to Nick Needham.
Not enough snaps for him.
Remember, you had to pay Nick Needham something.
No, we got to pay Nick Needham, yeah. But I mean, I'm trying to, because again, they're gonna have to find money somewhere. They have to bring back their good guys. Like, we can't just assume that. Oh, well, because Ethan is bringing up in the chat. Is there any chance of developing Verone McKinley into a future starter or backup at best? Maybe
backup. I think backup. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you're also forgetting that Trill Williams is under contract.
Trill Williams is on a contract if he gets back to form, and he gets in, because we never even saw him. Like, we were all speculating based on training camp and stuff like that. Oh yeah, Trill Williams could be good. We didn't really get to see anything.
The legend of Trill Williams.
Well, I'll tell you what happened with Trill Williams. He was going to keep Kader Kohu on that bench. When he got injured, that's how Kader Kohu, emerged. Because when they got Kader Kohu as an undrafted free agent, I got sold him pretty hard. Like, I was told, this guy's going to be good. They really, really like him. Josh Borio loves him. He's going to be a good player on this team. When camp opened, I didn't have him as making the team. I had him on the bubble.
Yeah, he's a starter now. Well, starter quality.
But that's the thing, though, is like with Trill Williams, if Trill Williams was that special, was it just because Kader Kohu wasn't performing in practice, or was it just one of those situations where Trill was legitimately better?
He was on the totem pole. He was on, he was a little behind, Trill Williams. Trill Williams, remember, was really, really good in camp. And then he was really good in the preseason games. Remember, he got hurt in Tampa. So, yeah, I think Trill Williams is going to have an opportunity to play again next year. And
I'm not taking it away from him.
Guys. You guys are forgetting about Iggy. We still got Iggy, man.
Ron, I'm legit gonna cut you out of the show just because you bring up
just all of a sudden it's just 2 people.
Yeah,
Ron's gone.
The problem with Noah Igbenogany is that he was actually a pretty good fit for the previous system.
Oh yeah, he's terrible for this. He wasn't even great for the other one, but he's terrible for this.
But he kind of improved.
Watch him. You know what? Watch him get into. They don't cut him. Watch him get into camp, in preseason and just start to light it up in full Fangio and
Ron.
Greer and
I will literally buy you.
Watch it happen.
I will buy you dinner. Wherever you want with the most expensive place
where
in the
I
world. Ron, no,
but
I will buy you the most expensive dinner on earth if Noah Igbenogany balls out in training camp. Okay.
Watch it happen. It would be funny.
It will not happen. It will not happen.
No, you're right. It won't.
So you didn't even want to make the bet. You didn't even want to make the bet. You know that
I'm not making any bet on Iggy unless the bet is I get to say he's gonna suck. That's the only bet I would make. No offense to him, but I guess except that he's just not very good. Oh well, such is life.
I keep saying. I legitimately keep saying. And I don't know if anybody listens to me. Maybe I'm totally off base. But I think if Noah Igbenogany wants to have any kind of career in the NFL, it has to be at a position where he can use his athleticism to the fullest. So make him a deep safety. Make him be the last resort guy who can come in and make the last tackle at the last second. That's the best thing that he can do for his career because he can't cover anybody.
Yeah, the problem too is if he sits there on that deep bench and he can't play special teams either. But hey, Lewis and Alf, I got a question for everybody. I thought maybe we could pick one player and let's see if we're matching the same players. One guy, the most important Dolphins free agent to re-sign, in your opinion, what do you guys think?
Specifically from the team of the list of
Yeah,
players who are leaving
of
Miami.
our own players that we need to re-sign. Most important guy.
Of all the guys that we have on the team,
Yeah, who do you think is most important, or even who do you want to make sure if you could only pick one,
Oh my
who
God,
do you want to make sure that we lock in? I have a. You want me to say my guy first?
bro! There's a
well,
there's
I,
a
Under?
well,
the
mine I
list.
think is Trent Sherfield. I think
Damn
is
it!
really
You took my
important.
guy, man. That's the guy. They have to re-sign Scherf, man. That to me, it's the most important re-sign for the Dolphins. I know that sounds crazy because we got Mostert and Wilson and Needham and there's a lot of dudes, but they gotta sign Scherf, man. He was just so, I don't know, he was just important to the offense. He filled that gap that Cedric Wilson and stuff just couldn't get done at that third wide receiver spot, man. He was important in a package. Like sometimes they'd have Waddle and Hill, and we talked about it earlier in the year too during the season. Many times you'd have Waddle and Hill even not on the field, taking a break, and you'd have Scherf out there with Crawcraft and stuff, and Sherfield would make plays, man. He would make plays even when Hill and Waddle were not on the field, and that's what I thought was key. Everybody wants to think, oh, well, everybody's paying attention to Hill and Waddle. That's why he's making plays. No, he was making plays when those guys were not even on the field. And I just think that they have to re-sign him.
If you look at that list of free agents,
which does not even the whole list, by the way.
okay, if you look at that list, there's so many guys on there that they got to resign that it's not even funny. Like you could go right down the list. Like, look, Mike Gesicki today they kind of left the door open, although that's not happening. Mike McDaniel said that he's earned his right to test the market,
which is code for we're not bringing you back. Go find someone.
Exactly.
He's earned his right to go rip off another team when they realize he's just a slow receiver who doesn't get separation.
But if you move down this list, like Eric Rose is a useful player, but you see that salary that's coming off, they need that money out. But Melvin Ingram, man, I put that same contract right in front of him once again to see if he wants to come back, because that's one thing that they're gonna like about the team as it is right now. The depth that they have at edge is something that a Fangio defense is going to want and is going to use. Now, they've mentioned all offseason so far that Emmanuel Ogbah is actually in their plans. Because I was thinking, okay, that's a trade candidate or a cut candidate next year, because they can't cut him this year.
Well, just because they said he's in he's in their plans doesn't mean that he's in their plans to play. Maybe he's in their plans to trade bait.
I don't think so. The way that they're talking about him, they're like Chris Greer said that they didn't give him that contract so he could sit on IR for a year. So
I mean, what if you're let's say they are looking to trade Emmanuel Ogbah, would you go out there and just kind of poo-poo him? Of course you would hype him up.
I don't know. It looks to me like he's actually going to be in that rotation for at least this year.
But I mean, if that's the case, then Emmanuel Ogbah is. He's taking Melvin Ingram's money. Year. He's taking Melvin Ingram's money then.
No, because he already he already made money this past year. So, I don't think it's costing you much to just bring back Melvin Ingram. But you move on from there, and Nick Needham, he's a priority. Okay? So you got to bring him back. Duke Riley's a good special teams player. You're probably going to look for a savings on that money. Eric Fisher, look, they didn't give him $3 million to do nothing. All right, last year. That was like a wink and a nod, like, hey, you're our swing tackle for next season. So I think they're bringing him back for sure. Atlanta Roberts is a perfect fit for the system, and he's cheap, and he's an effective player. And Trey Flowers was cheap, and he's a rotation guy, maybe. So a lot of these guys are useful players. These are a lot of good players. Raheem Mostert, they're going to bring him back.
I'm looking at Thomas Morstead.
Thomas Morse is a guy that they should bring back. Eguavoen is cheap and he's like a priority special teamer. Like, there's a possibility there. John Jenkins is extremely important because in this system you're going to need more than 1-0. He's the backup to Raekwon Davis, and Raekwon Davis is playing on the last year of his deal. So, so John Jenkins is important. Trent Sherfield, of course, is important. Bethel is a cheap guy that you could get for special teams. Jeff Wilson's also cheap. Brandon Shell, look at that contract. Like, there's a lot of useful players in this whole group. Like, the one guy that, like, if we're going to talk about the guys that are absolutely gone, like, look, Michael Dieter is a dead man walking.
Bye, Dieter.
Okay, like, that's a fact. Look, Elijah Campbell's going to be another useful player who's cheap. All right. Trill Williams, we already talked about him, but you see, he can be tendered. Van Ginkel is a guy that I think Vic Fangio is going to look at. He's going to say, you know what? I can use this player. Let's try to work out a deal for him. And Myles Gaskin, we know he's gone. So
yeah, there's a lot of names on here that we're not going to see again.
Justin
Lovett.
Bethel. I mean, he ended up being important.
He
way
was a better
more
backup
so than we thought he would.
As an exclusive special teams player, he was a better backup than a lot of the other backups.
He played in one game more snaps than he'd played at the cornerback position in 4 years with New England in one game.
And he was good.
The Steelers game.
And he was
and
good.
He played pretty well, man. He shocked me. Like he was very important to a special teams unit that actually he was one of the few shining stars because that was not the greatest of units. That was probably one of the weakest special teams units that we've had. I'm actually surprised that the special teams coach kept his job, to be honest.
Well,
it's not a great performance from them last year.
Remains to be seen. No, it's not like there's not still time to make a change.
I know, but I'd be surprised to see him lose his job now. I think if you're a coach, unless it's defense, I know that Fangio isn't done, or is he done? Alf, is Fangio done building his staff?
I think there's a couple of spots open. So
okay.
No, not
well,
yet.
by the way, the Sean Desai dream is dead because he just took the Eagles' defensive coordinator position.
Oh yeah, good. Kudos to him. Like that would. I mean, I can't believe we snagged and we haven't been on the air, so to speak, since it happened. But the Ronaldo Hill signing.
Yeah.
What a snipe, right?
I mean, I guess he likes
great.
Miami. This is like as a player, as a coach, this is his third tenure in Miami.
Yeah, so that was very interesting. It was just interesting that he decided to. I guess maybe they made it officially not a demotion, but wasn't it pretty much a demotion?
Yeah, I think the next shoe to drop. They need an outside linebackers coach, and isn't it interesting that there's these rumors going around that Jason Taylor doesn't want to? He's not for the college game. Let's say that it's
really?
It's too all-encompassing, too involved, and let's face it. Sometimes, you're a Hall of Famer. Okay, you used to being around men, and now you got to go kiss some 17-year-old's ass in Oklahoma. And you're like, you know what? I don't want to do this. All right. I live in Miami. I have a beautiful house. Why can't I just go to the facility in Miami Gardens to coach? And then during the season, we go to Cleveland, we go to Buffalo, we go to the Jets, we go wherever, and we go play games. And I don't have to do all of this extra crap.
If I could get Jason Taylor to come in here and be a coach for the Dolphins, listen, keep Sam in the coaching staff, keep JT in the coaching staff. Maybe make it official and have Dan actually do something in the QB room.
He kind of does do stuff in the QB room, but he does it unassumingly. I think he's doing more in that QB room than you think, but he does it without being invasive and overbearing and just tries to be there and helps where he can. But you got to know Mike McDaniel. He seems all about those legacy coach signings. But it's a matter of what would Fangio think. I think that's these
guys know what they're doing. Like, if you were really that special and you were that amazing, you have to know something about what your game is.
But sometimes the best players don't make the best coaches because the best players were great because they were just so gifted and talented physically. It's the average or below average guys that go out there and make great coaches or. Who's the quarterback's coach? Is it Beck? Is it John Beck, who was the
Yeah,
most
he's like
average,
a guru. Yeah,
he was
he's
the
a
most
guru
mid
now.
freaking quarterback ever in Miami.
No,
and
he
is
wasn't
some
mid. He
quarterback
was bad.
guru.
I mean,
Okay,
listen,
he was bad.
We
Yeah,
practically
but-
worship the grand Dan Orlovsky walks on now. So
Yes, exactly. So sometimes the best, I mean, I'll just say Don Shula was a very average, if even, cornerback when he was in the NFL. Yes, that was many decades ago, and the guy was one of the greatest coaches ever. I mean, it just doesn't always work that way.
I take
many
Detroit.
times.
No,
Deion
Tom
Sanders
Landry,
is an exception to the rule, not the
like
norm.
Tom Landry, I believe, got cut like 3 times as a defensive end, and he invented the 4-3 defense.
Lewis, you know the saying, as they say, those who can't teach.
I mean,
So-
look,
Yes.
I would,
And in the NBA, and it's never been more true in the NBA. Magic Johnson was not only one of the best point guards, if not the best point guard of all time, he was also one of the most intelligent players of all time. And that was a clown show when he took over for I think it was Del Harris who he took over for the Lakers. Like, he was awful. Like, it was a joke.
Yeah, that's another legacy signing, is
So,
what that is.
I would absolutely love to get Big Troy Drayton to be the tight ends coach. Like I was covering a high school championship, like it was like an all-star game type of thing, and while we were actually discussing with Aronde Gadsden and some other guys there whether or not Brian Flores was going to be the hire at the time, and he literally, I had asked him a question about what it means to be a tight end and stuff like that, and he literally told me about how it's important to be able to block, and he got down on the ground with me and told me here's how tight ends need to be in a stance in order to be able to do both the route running and why it's different, and to have one hand here, and if you're going to have the other hand in the dirt instead of that other hand, and which side of the line you're on. I'm like, Troy, why aren't you coaching?
Did he run you over, Lewis?
No, he didn't. No, he didn't bash.
Did you get past him?
I didn't get back.
Did he beat you on a route? Did he beat you on a route, catch it, and then fall down at the 4-yard line?
Oh, Lord have mercy.
Oh man.
Listen,
Hey,
Al,
Troy Drayton was a great player, but
You're mean,
some of
bruh.
my memories
mean.
were of Troy
Oh,
Drayton
my God.
was that.
I will not tolerate Big Troy slander on my show.
that's like if Sammy Smith comes to be your running backs coach, he's like, does he teach you how to fumble at the goal line?
Well, I believe Sammy Smith is dead, man. So I don't.
Oh, jeez, I didn't know that.
Oh
If
God,
he comes
Ron.
to be the-
Dead. Oh well.
Yeah.
Too soon. Too soon.
Is Sammy Smith dead? Like,
I
did I
didn't
just kill him on the show?
Did you? Yeah, I think if he's not dead, we just killed him, right? Good.
Holy
Well,
shit,
it's
let's find
past
out.
an hour, guys.
Sammy Smith is a former American. Is he? Nah,
If it says is, that means it's
If it
alive.
says if it says
if it
he's
says
a former,
was,
if it says he's a former human being, then yeah, then I'm in the clear.
I mean, I'm trying to find it. I don't. It says born age 55. I don't see anything about him being dead.
yeah. If it
Holy
says
shit.
the word is,
I mean,
that means he's not dead.
He's had legal problems. I don't see
Yeah.
anything about dead.
It's
All right,
easy on Wikipedia because all you have to read is the first few words. It says their name. If it says is, they're alive. If it says was, they're dead. You don't have to go any further.
All right, is he?
We didn't
alive?
even get to tight ends, which we know. I mean, they're going to rip that room apart, but maybe we get to that next week.
I mean, there's a thing about
Next
him in the
week, we
magazine
just
from
talk about
2020.
tight ends. That's it. I'm just kidding.
Okay, I mean, hey, no, we're gonna have to talk about a lot of stuff, quite frankly. I
Yeah.
mean, it looks like Sammy Smith got past his ways, and now he is trying to work. He's trying to be a minister, I guess. So he's still alive, I guess.
Yeah,
Really?
Alfie went there trying to make me feel bad and stuff.
Yeah, this is an article from 2020 about how he is. This is from Unconquered magazine, basically a story of grace and redemption from Jerry Cutts.
Yeah,
He
I think
basically,
we've had enough Sammy Smith conversation on the show already. We don't have to go any further.
Ron,
Sorry,
why
I
do you not
brought it
wanna-
up.
You don't want to talk about Sammy Smith?
No, I don't think anyone wants to hear about it either. Oh man.
Listen, it's been a while since we've talked about stuff. Now the
Okay,
offseason
I know where I got this from.
Uh-oh.
ABA player Sammy Smith died he died in June. That's where I got this from.
Who's
The different
who
Sammy
is this
Smith?
other Sammy Smith?
Well, he was an NBA ABA
Such
player.
an uncommon name, Sammy Smith. All right.
Can we get Brock Marion as a safeties coach? I don't know, man. We're talking about too much stuff. All right,
Let's
we
get
got
could get Brock
Gabriel
Marion
Wilson.
to come in and tell everybody to go fuck themselves. Like that's what he likes to do. Yeah.
He'll be the Butch Berry of the defense.
With the sticky notes.
It's like,
Uh,
no apologies. All right, guys. We've gone over an hour. I swear we're trying to keep it under, but it's like
Yeah,
there's so
we
much to talk about, man. And we
There
go
it
off on
is.
tangents because we're having fun. So we're gonna call it here. Thank you everybody for joining us. We'll be back next week.
yes.
Ron. Yes.
Yeah,
Okay,
we got stuff to talk about now. We're gearing up to free agency. We only got a few weeks till we really.
Yeah, next week,
hit
like
free
if we do
agency.
this show on Tuesday, what's next week? What day is that?
Tuesday. I'm just kidding. I don't know,
It
the
is.
6th or something like that.
Yeah, so we will be like a
It's the
week
7th.
away.
7th.
The
Okay.
7th. So we will be exactly 6 days away from the tampering period. So there might be some scuttlebutt. Like
Some
you
chatter.
might have, you might have Jordan Poirier already, like just showing up randomly at the.
I mean, he
at the
literally already has.
facility.
At the Ventura Mall.
He has the neon sign up that says "Sign me, Miami."
Yeah, he
Yeah.
practically has on Twitter. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, he's almost said, "Come sign me, Miami," on Twitter.
Yeah, so basically,
Yeah.
Buffalo's GM is like, dude, you could at least make it pretend you want to come back. I'm like, no, I'm good.
Nice.
All right, so that's it for this show. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Make sure you're going over to prizepicks.com to use the promo code 5. That's FIVE. They will match up to $100 on your deposit when you first sign up. So they're basically giving you $100 for free if you deposit $100 when you sign up using that promo code. I've taken advantage of the Taco Tuesday tacos, so I'm going to see what I can do to get the most out of my money. You guys can too. Go to prizepicks.com, use that promo code FIVE, get up to your $100 matched on your initial sign up deposit. With that said, that is Ron Caniff on the bottom. That is Alfredo Arteaga's icon on the right. But you need to get back on camera, Al, so you can show the world your awesome setup.
Yeah. I was gonna do that, but I'm doing some other things. Like I have 2 computers here going. I'm working on some other stuff, so
Okay,
I have
fair
like
enough.
a mess going. So I couldn't get on camera.
No, fair enough. Alrighty. We'll see if I can drag Chag kicking and screaming into this show next week. Anyway, thank you all so much for joining us. We will see you all next week.